The repair bill from those disasters earlier this year is expected to run into hundreds of billions of dollars. As the rebuilding task gears up, two issues loom large: the role of private investment and the level of disaster proofing.
With a country as big as Australia, leaders are finding it hard to keep up with all the new infrastructure that's required. Adding to the problem this year, a big damage bill from the flooding and cyclone in Queensland, which caused around $5.5 billion damage to critical infrastructure.
We saw 95% of our very valuable coal mines in that state offline for weeks and in some cases much longer.
To free up skills and labour for the rebuilding process in Queensland, the federal government has decided to defer $1 billion worth of infrastructure projects.
The key issue is for governments generally to think about how they might balance the two key objectives of restoring infrastructure as a result of natural disasters, but at the same time creating some flexibility in the way they approach funding of infrastructure to enable ongoing infrastructure programs to be rolled out.
A report by engineering firm MWH looks at the public's priorities for infrastructure needs.
There was an emphasis on water in the first instance, on electricity, an emphasis towards sanitation and so on.
But the report found the public was split when asked whether infrastructure should be built to withstand a natural disaster.
People in general aren't looking to make sure that things are completely bulletproof against events, but they do want to know that they get their services back sooner rather than later.
Julian, Vella, head of infrastructure at KPMG, says the government should consider transferring non-critical infrastructure to the private sector. And he says there needs to be more incentives for the private sector to invest.
For governments to provide, if you like, the start-up capital to actually get the infrastructure built, developed, commissioned and operating, and then to subsequently transfer that infrastructure to the private sector once it's mature and the cash flows are more predictable and well known.
With the rebuilding well underway in Queensland, much more debate is expected about how to protect critical infrastructure.